Okay, today we're going to be talking about Tributas, Note Beacons, and text codes, and how they function in the dojo as well as in your loadout slots. If you're unaware of what I mean by that, I'll show you a quick example here. You can get animated symbols or static symbols if you desire in your loadouts. The Tributa's full name is the Tributa statue, which you can find in the Tenno section of dojo decorations. When you go to place it, you're going to notice it has text standing out in front of it along with a beam of light. If you rescale the decoration, it will rescale the text as well. Tributas, for whatever reason, have the most pain in the ass hitbox you will ever find. I'm going to reference the old video that this is replacing. The yellow box that I have made around the Tributa in the older video outlines the area in which, if you cursor in, you are going to select the Tributa. Especially when it's on a larger scale, this becomes more exaggerated the bigger you make it, but it is just an atrocity. I really wish they would change the hitbox for this, because it makes it so when you clip something into it, or if you're clipping them with each other, you have to really hope that something was sticking out, or else you are not going to be able to retrieve it without undoing most of your placement. Moving forward though, when you go to place it, you'll be prompted to enter text. You can put whatever text or special characters you would like in there, so long as you adhere to the 30 character limit. After you have input text, you have various other options to use, such as the primary and secondary colors in case you wanted to make it look like a 7th grade PowerPoint presentation. You have the option to rotate whatever text you have. You also have the option to scale it in addition to the regular scaling from changing the size of the Tributa statue itself. You can change the length, which is the distance that a text has from the Tributa statue itself. This also increases the length of the beam of light, which you can color in the top there. Intensity determines how bright that shaft of light is. You can turn that down and change the color to black if you'd like to remove it entirely, or you can remove the text and just have the shaft of light. Note beacons are much smaller than Tributas, although they cost more capacity and function the exact same way. The only reason I would advocate using a note beacon over a Tributa is if you need something omega small and have plat to spare. Next, we will touch briefly on text codes themselves, which are a super cool feature, more like bug, that you can take advantage of in your Tributas, note beacons, or loadout slots. The majority of known text codes can be found on the wiki page, which I will link on screen, and a huge credit to Niche and Silver DK for actually being the ones to discover these. Niche first discovered the damage types a long time ago, and then with Silver they ended up getting the full list. And then later someone in their Discord ended up snagging it for a karma grab on Reddit, which is the thread most of you probably know about. A valid text code, when enclosed in brackets, will display a symbol. In this case, it's the infested faction symbol. Not all icons are going to be double-sided, so keep in mind that if you flip to one side, it may be invisible, but visible on the other. This is actually a super handy thing that I used in my Riven room to replicate the symbols when you're trying to look through the glass. If you're hoping for a complete list of what all the text codes look like, I'll be putting out a video later once I have actually compiled them. But in the meantime, the point of this video is to talk about Tributas and the behavior of text codes along with them. So to start on the breakdown of behavior, if you were to place two Tributas with text codes right next to each other, you would assume that whichever one is closer to you is the one that would appear first, pretty much. And if there was something behind it, it would be invisible behind that, but somehow that's not actually how Tributas work. The first placement is going to be the oldest, and then the next placement is going to be considered the newest. And the newest text code will always show in front of the oldest. Text is exempt from this, I'll show that later, but it's quite odd in that. But then it's extremely weird, because once you leave the dojo and come back, it actually flips in reverse. So that way the oldest is in front and the newest is now in last. It doesn't matter how many times you switch the decorations around after you've loaded back into the dojo after the initial placement, it will never change. The only way it can change is if you end up funding a decoration. While it is funding, it will not reprioritize, but after it has finished baking, when you leave the dojo and come back, it will actually reprioritize the newest baked decoration as the newest decoration overall. So as a better example to help those who are still struggling, I've placed Tributas in order of A, B, C, D, using the check a really big text code, and then you can see that D, being the newest, is shown first, no matter what angle we're looking at. However, once we leave the dojo after this initial placement, the first time we've ever placed them, when we come back, it will actually flip the appearance hierarchy. So then D will not appear first, it will instead appear appear last, and A will instead appear first. Circling back to Note Beacons, they have the exact same behavior as Tributas on initial placement, but after returning to the dojo, Tributas will always be given priority over Note Beacon icons or text. Now you'll see with my frame standing in between D and C, it actually creates an outline from the frontmost layer, outlined by the backmost newest layer in this case. So you get a distinct outline of my frame. You can actually use this to your advantage to create some pretty interesting things. Dr. Lego, a friend of mine, he has a example here with his little samurai outline. When you look at it up close, you see it's just a Buddha statue with some random crap on it. But when using this, you're able to actually get the outline, and it's a dynamic outline as well, so you can approach it from different angles and get better views. But this is something kind of cool. So credit to Dr. Lego, he definitely has the most experience with Tributas out of anyone that I know. And also credit to Dizzy12 from PS4. He's the one who brought it to my attention that Tributas had a placement hierarchy outside of just whichever was closest. I think that just about covers it for all the quirks behind Tributas and Note Beacons and text codes. So now we will move on to Loadout Icons. It's a pretty simple explanation of literally just enter a text code into the loadout name and it will reflect immediately. Keep in mind though that not all text codes are short enough to fit in the loadout name character limit. Tributas in the dojo have a larger character limit than your loadout slot does.